Now that we've decided to go the route where we're querying all of our DDG profiles once and building a dictionary, we know we're going to need that hacky workaround second property on our DDG profile. So that's the first thing I want to do. So I'm going to go to my CloudKit dashboard here in Safari. Make sure you're in the right container, right? Grub. So I go to record types, and then here I want to modify my DDG profile. And then here down at the bottom of my record fields, I'm going to add a field called is checked in nil check. And then the field type, remember I said CloudKit doesn't have Booleans. So to replicate that Boolean, you use an int and you just, 1 or 0. Now I do need this to be queryable, just like our is checked in is queryable, because we're going to do the same thing. We're going to pass up a predicate to check for is checked in nil check equal to 1, and only give me the records where is checked in nil check is equal to 1, right? Because if it's not equal to 1, I don't even want that record, right? For efficiency purposes. So we are going to need to make this queryable. So let me go ahead and save changes first. Not sure if I can do the index before saving, but hey, better safe than sorry. And then just to the left, we can do edit indexes. We can hit a plus here. And then the field we want is checked in nil check that we just created. And then we want to make that queryable. Cool. Now we have is checked in nil check is queryable, just like our is checked in is queryable. And then for safety, I always go back to record types, DG profile, make sure it's like still there. Cool. Yep. Is checked in nil check. It is queryable. Great. Let's go back to Xcode. So we are done up in CloudKit. Since we are going to be using that property, right? Typing is checked in nil check. You can easily make a typo there. So let's go to our model, our DDG profile. We're going to create our constant, just like we did before, static let k is checked in nil check, messing up my equal signs, tab it over, and then that is, let's go back to CloudKit. I do this just to be safe. Highlight it, copy, back to Xcode, paste it in there now that we know we're good. And then if you hold Option, drag down, tab over a couple times, and we're good. Now, I'm not going to worry about like initializing my record with the property of is checked in nil check because we're not using it like that. So I don't even want like access to it on my actual DDG profile. Okay, so the reason I created this constant is because we're going to have to update this property every time we update our record when we're checking in or checking out. Remember I said we have to keep is checked in nil check in sync with is checked in. And like I said, this is the downside of this solution. Just to reiterate, it is a limitation of CloudKit. If when I query the CloudKit database, I could filter out the nils as part of my query, that would be great. I wouldn't have to do this. Unfortunately, that is not possible with CloudKit, so here we are. All right, so the two places I'm updating my is checked in is the location detail view and the profile screen. So let's go to screens. We'll do location detail view in the view model, right? Because that's where we're doing it here. We're going to go to update check-in status, right? This is where we're updating it, right? We're updating it here in our checked in and checked out. So we need to update it accordingly. So we'll do another one here. Again, this is us keeping it in sync. DDG profile. This is why I created the constant there. So I didn't have to type it out every time. And then that is going to equal 1. So when we're checking in, right, we make is checked in equal to the reference of whatever location we're checking in. And then we're also keeping our is checked in nil check in sync with 1. And now hopefully you see why I typically avoid these like little hacky things in my courses and tutorials, because it can be confusing. But again, I thought it was a good chance to talk about sometimes you have to use a solution that isn't perfect. That's just how the real world actually is, because you're not always in perfect, clean, neat, contrived tutorial land. Okay, so now when I check out, I'm going to copy this and paste this. I will make that equal to nil. I mean, you could do 0, but I'm just going to make it nil. So basically my options here for my nil check are either 1 or nil. So again, to reiterate, right, we update our record with our is checked in status, and then here we're saving our record and we're good to go. It's saved. And then I don't need to do anything else here. So the other place is our profile view model. So get checked in status, nothing to do there. That's fine. Check out. Yes, this is where we want to update it, right? So here we are checking out. And on success of checkout, here's where we want to basically set this back to nil. So I'll paste it again because I already had it copied. And instead of that equal 1, that equals nil. So those are the two locations where our checkout status can change. The profile view when they tap the checkout button, and then our location detail view when they're tapping that check-in, checkout button. Now to reiterate, a big reason I chose this solution was because we were only updating this in 2 areas. If in our product, again, I'm repeating this, if we were able to update the checkout status from 10 different screens, is a little bit more risky. 2, not so bad. And that's why I talk about these, art of programming decisions are very like situation and product specific. Okay, so now that we're updating that accordingly in our code, let's test it. And I believe I'm already checked in somewhere. So I'm gonna check out and then check back in so all this code fires off. And then I'll check CloudKit to make sure, it is reflected there. And just to reiterate again, like I said, I get this like every day. I saw some people commenting on it. It confused them. So I wanted to showcase this again. Basically, I get this like every new day. I don't know if it resets every 24 hours, but you go into settings, just sign in again, and you're good to go. All right, we're back. I signed in. So I'm gonna go to locations. I believe I'm checked in to, I don't even know where I'm checked in. So I'll just go profile, check out. There we go. That's the whole point of that button, right? Go to locations. Cool. So now I need to check in somewhere. Gonna go to the old Chipotle. That's the trusty one. Check in. There we go. Checked in, just like before. Now let's go to CloudKit and go to records and public database. Make sure we are on DDG profile, query records. Should see my record back. And now what my is checked in nil check right here is 1. Okay, so that seems to be working okay. Let's go back to the simulator and check out. Okay, good. Back to Safari, query records again, and is checked in nil check, as you can see, is nothing. It's nil. Okay, so we're keeping it in sync. Code's working great. Back to Xcode, and we'll stop running that. Now let's actually write the network call to query all of our DDG profiles and build that dictionary. So into our CloudKit manager, I'm going to do this below get checked in profiles. Because you see, get checked in profiles is for a location, right? This is the one I talked about earlier where we're passing in a specific location ID and we're only getting profiles that are checked into that location. This is what I said was going to get fired off like every location. This is why it was like not efficient. So again, this is the one that gets it for an individual location. Now we're going to write one that gets all of them, and we're going to build a dictionary that has the key value pair of the key being the location ID and the value being an array of DDG profiles. So let's write that. So below that, going to write func get checked in profiles dictionary. I'm just being very explicit here. And that takes in a closure here. So like I do, because I'm lazy, I just copy a closure because that's just tricky to type out every time. And then give me my open and close curly braces. And now, of course, we are not getting back an array of CK record. Like I said, we're getting back a dictionary where the key is actually ckrecord.id is the record ID of the location. And the value is an array of DDG profiles. So get checked in profiles dictionary. On success, we return, like I said, this dictionary. Key is the record ID. Value is an array of DDG profiles, and then returns void. Okay, so we're going to type out something similar to this get checked in profiles. However, we're not going to use the convenience API of perform. We're actually going to use a CK operation similar to here. So it's kind of like a blend of those two network calls. So a good example to show you as well. So the first thing I want to create is our predicate. Remember I said our predicate is going to be very similar to what we did when we get our checked in ID for a specific location. In fact, so similar, I'm going to copy it and paste it. Because the predicate, the format, instead of is checked in equal to our reference, well, we don't need our reference anymore. It is going to be is checked in nil check is equal to 1. So what this predicate is going to do is it is going to give us back every DDG profile where the is checked in nil check equals 1, which to us, remember, that means they are checked in somewhere. We don't know where, but they are checked in somewhere. So give me all those records back. And again, what this does is say we have 10,000 profiles, but due to the nature of our app, only maybe 2,000 of them are actually actively checked in somewhere. Well, we're only going to get back 2,000 records. We're not going to get back all 10,000. So it's an efficiency thing to do that. And then next, let's create our query. So let query equals CK query. And we want to do record type and predicate. So the record type, again, we've used this before, is profile. It's our DDG profile. And the predicate is the predicate that we just created up here. Now we create our operation based on that query. Let operation equal CK query operation. And that takes in a query. We'll talk about that cursor in a second. We'll come back to that. So the query is the query that we just created up here on line 77. Now that we have our operation, I want to talk about an extra little optimization you could do should you choose. And I'm going to talk about why I didn't do that optimization. So pulling up the design, if you look at what we get back, we're only showing the avatar from our profile. Well, remember our profile has more properties, right? We got the name, company name, bio, but we don't need all that stuff for right here. So by using the CK operations and not the convenience API, we can do desired keys, which means we only get back the keys we want. So for example, I can do operation.desired keys equals, and this is an array of strings essentially. So I can do DDG profile dot, I do want is checked in because I need the location ID. So I'm going to need that, and DDG profile dot avatar. And like I said, this is an array of strings, and just to refresh your memory, these are the constants that we created on our DDG profile. So these are the strings that are going to get passed in for what we need. So back to the CloudKit manager, what I am saying right now is give me all these records. Remember, we could be downloading 1,000 profiles. So this is a little bit more efficient because we're only going to download the reference and then the avatar, right? We're not going to download the first name, the last name, the company name, and the bio. Now, that is a nice little efficiency when you're downloading stuff. You can only download the stuff you need. That's great. Here is why, and again, this is my opinion. Feel free to disagree. It's perfectly fine to have the other opinion. Here's why I'm not going to do that is because it is a little bit of future proofing, and I think the cost is negligible. What I mean by the cost being negligible is, what are we omitting? First name, last name, company name, and bio. And our bio is only 100 characters long. So that's just text, and it's a very small amount of text. So very, very minimal data. So that's why I mean by the cost is negligible of downloading that. And the reason I am going to choose to download that is, like I said, future proofing. And again, it's fine to disagree with this. Let's say pulling up the design, maybe just having the avatar was too confusing. You couldn't tell who it was. So maybe we wanted to have the person's initials under the avatar, or maybe we did want to add the first name later in design. Well, I already have all that. I don't have to come in and mess with my desired keys and all that stuff. So that is why I'm going to choose to not have the desired keys. But I wanted to show you that, talk through that to show you what's possible. Because let's say I was downloading all these profiles, but I only needed the first name. Well, this would be a great example on when you absolutely should do this, because you don't want to download these avatars if you don't have to. Because if I go back to CloudKit here, right, look at my avatar. Where's it at? My avatar is, let's get to it. Okay, it's black. You can't see it. It's basically 46 kilobytes. Still not a ton, but when you're downloading thousands of that, not downloading that avatar image is really going to speed up your download. So in that case, I absolutely would use desired keys and not download the avatar. But since we're already downloading the avatar anyway, that's like the heavy lift. Just downloading the name and the bio, like that's not, again, negligible cost. So I'm fine keeping that. So I'm actually just going to comment out this line just so it's still there. When you download the source code, you can still see it, but we're not going to use it. So when you're not using the convenience API and you're using just the CK query operation, you get back two closures. One of the closures feeds you the records as they're downloaded, right? Kind of like a stream. And then the second closure fires off when it's done, right? All the records are downloaded, this fires off. So we're going to handle both of those. So that is operation.record fetch block equals, and we'll do record in, right? Because that's basically the record is going to be what we get back. Like I said, it's kind of like a stream. This fires off as it happens. So here's where we're going to build our dictionary. But first I need a dictionary outside of the scope of that to build. So we'll do var checked in profiles, and that will be of type, basically this. Let me copy and paste. So the type is our dictionary, which again, the key is our record ID. Our value is the array of profiles, and that is going to equal, we're going to initialize it as an empty dictionary, because again, as these records come in, we're basically going to be adding to this dictionary. So that's what's going to happen in this completion block. As we get records streamed in, we just throw them into the dictionary accordingly, based on, again, the key of their record ID. So let's do that here. So the first step in building this, because we need an array of DDG profiles, right? We need a profile. So we'll do let profile equals, and we'll initialize a DDG profile. Remember, we created the initializer from a record. Well, hey, we have a record right here that we got. So we'll just initialize a profile from that record. And then the next step we got to do is check what the reference ID is, because that tells us what location this is checked into. And then once we have that, we can update our dictionary accordingly. Well, our is checked in, if we go back to DDG profile, we default that to nil right here. And actually, I almost forgot about this. We don't have access to it in our actual DDG profile because we weren't using it, we weren't ever using it. Well, now we are using it, right? We're about to check for it right now. So I'm going to do is checked in equals record DDG profile dot k is checked in. And we have to cast that as an optional. Well, we're not gonna, you can't initialize something twice. So I have to get rid of that default value, just make it an optional. And then I can do CK record.reference. Okay, so now we will initialize our DDG profiles. It now has an isCheckedIn property that is, the isCheckedIn that we get back, which is a reference to a location. So back to CloudKit Manager. The main reason we did that is so we can check for it. And again, just in case, because of this is nil check, we shouldn't be getting back records where isCheckedIn is nil, right? We shouldn't be getting that. But just in case, we will check for that. Guard let location reference equal profile.is checked in else, and we're just going to return here, right? I don't want to show an error. We're just basically going to not even do anything with that record if isCheckedIn is nil. So it's kind of like a backup check just in case CloudKit gives us something weird. But really, I would have to unwrap the optional anyway, because that is optional. So rather than force unwrap it, you know what? Let's just actually unwrap it and handle it accordingly. So now that we have our location reference, this is how we know what location we're checked into, which we can build our dictionary from. Checked in profiles, this is our dictionary. Now the key that I want is location reference dot record ID, right? Because the key is a ckrecord.id. So essentially what we're doing is working with the value at this key. The key is, again, our record ID. And what we'll do, because our dictionary, right, is empty right now, so the first time it comes across a location, it's not going to have anything. We can handle that with a default of an empty array. So essentially what this is saying is, let's work with the value at this key, which is the record ID. If there is no key of this record ID, right, it's the first time we've seen it, we're going to default to just an empty array, right, just a blank array. So now that I have this value, I can do .append, and we can append the profile. So let me run through this real quick because I understand this line may not be super familiar. So even though I just said it, what we did is, hey, as we're getting a record back, okay, create a profile from that record. Cool. Do a double check to make sure we have a reference to a location checked in somewhere. Great. Now in our checked in profiles dictionary, go ahead and look for the key of this record ID. Say it's the Chipotle record ID. If an array of DDG profiles exists at that record ID, we're going to go ahead and append it to the profile. If there is no array of DDG profiles, right, like this is the first time somebody's been checked in at Chipotle, we have a default value of an empty array. So we're either appending it to an empty array or appending it to an existing array. So that's how that closure is going to work. So for, say we're getting back 100 records, it's going to check every profile and build the dictionary accordingly, right? So if 10 people are checked into Chipotle, here's the Chipotle record ID, and we're going to keep appending that profile to the key of that record ID. So a hypothetical dictionary will look like this, where we have a bunch of record IDs, and then the value at each record ID is an array of DDG profiles. And again, that's the first closure we deal with. That's the streaming records. So the second closure we deal with is when everything is done. We've downloaded all the records. So operation.query completion block equals, and here we have a cursor, an error. That's what gets returned in. So let me explain the cursor. Well, the error is self-explanatory, right? If there's an error, cool, handle that. What the cursor is right, hypothetically, we could be querying 1,000 DDG profile records that we get back that are checked in somewhere. Well, CloudKit has limitations on how many records will come back. There's not an exact number. In fact, let's kind of dig into this here. So I'm going to dig into CK query operation, option click, and then let's open up developer documentation. Scroll down a bit because I am looking for result limit, right? The maximum number of records to return at one time. So you can set this, right? Like if you only wanted 50 back, like you can set that. We want the maximum, right? So for most queries, leave the value of this property as the default value, which is maximum results. Okay, so what's maximum results? Click on that. The value of this constant doesn't correspond to the actual number of records. Here's the key. CloudKit dynamically determines the actual number according to various conditions at runtime, like how, basically performance. They're gonna tweak the number to give you back as many as they possibly can without like bogging things down. So we don't have an actual number, but it will stop at some point. We don't know. So that's what this cursor is. Back to our CloudKit manager. Here, this cursor right here is kind of like this cursor I'm using right now, clicking around. It holds your place. Say you got the first 100 records, well, your cursor is going to be at 101, right? So what you need to do for pagination, and we're going to handle this in another video because this is already getting quite long and there's a lot in this video. We're going to do this separately, but basically you would do another query and pass in that cursor so it knows where to start querying the records, right? If it already got 100, it's going to start at 101 and keep going. So let's do some basic nil checks right now. Guard let error equals nil. So basically if we have an error, we'll do completed.failure. We'll pass back the error that we can force and wrap. And then now comment here, handle cursor in later video. We'll deal with that later. Oops, I don't need a let there. Just guard errors equals nil. My bad. Okay, so we will, and I forgot to return. Man, I guess I forgot how to write a guard statement there. Again, we all mess up simple little stuff all the time. So handle cursor in a later video. But what we want to do now is call completed.success. And here's what we want to return checked in profiles. And what checked in profiles is our dictionary that we've been building. Because remember, this completion block fires off after all of the possible records have been downloaded. And again, we'll do some special stuff for the cursor in case there's more in a later video. Again, don't want to throw too much at you all at once. Okay, so now I don't want to forget, right? Let's call this checked in profiles dictionary. Where are we going to call this? I'm going to go to the location list view, which we'll create a folder for in the next video. So I want to do this on the on appear of the list. So dot on appear. And we'll refactor this into the view model later. Just for now, we'll write the, got to write it out here. CloudKit manager.shared get checked in profiles dictionary. And then, we're used to this, right? Hit return, give me the result, switch off the result, Command B to give me my cases, give me that. Yep, cool. And then on success case, we're going to get back, we're going to say let checked in profiles. And then here we'll do a print checked in profiles, and here we will print error getting back dictionary, just for right now to let me know. Do Command B, get rid of that error, something. Okay, cool, we're good. Of course, we're gonna handle the errors in a later video. Like you said, the process, just get it working. Let me see me getting back this dictionary that we built. So let me check CloudKit again. I believe I am checked out everywhere. Query records. Okay, I am not checked in anywhere. Cool. So when I first launch this app, we should see nothing in this dictionary. So, okay, I will move this over here so we can see this fully. And we'll go to locations, nothing printed out. I don't think it's gonna work. Check in, cool, I'm checked in. Let me go back to here, nothing printed, nothing printed. Okay, something is not working. Let's stop this and figure it out. Okay, and right away, I think I put my on appear on the wrong thing, right? This is on the for each. I want this to happen. I wonder if that's, yeah, something's wrong. I want this to happen on the list. So I'm gonna put it below the navigation title. Okay, let me see if that was what I did wrong. I think that'll be it. I don't know, I've never actually tried to do an on appear in the for each, so who knows. Tap on locations. Okay, nothing printed. Checked in the Chipotle, back, nothing printed. Okay, so that wasn't it. We messed up something else. Let's stop that. Time for some good old breakpoint debugging. CloudKit manager. Okay, well, let me look at this before I put in some breakpoints. Cool. Oh, I know exactly what I did. I said you're going to do this all the time. So yes, just like task.resume on a normal network call, remember we've done this, I didn't do operation.add, right? So I created the operation, said what I'm going to do during the completion blocks, but I have to add the operation. Remember we talked about this before, right? It's this line right down here, the CK contain. In fact, I'm just going to copy and paste it because it's the exact same thing, right? Where you have to add your operation to the public database add operation. So, but I do think I messed up anyway on that, putting it on the for each. So I guess that bug was helpful. So now let's run it. Things should be working. Fingers crossed. Like I said, that's not the first time I've forgotten that. It's not gonna be the last time I've forgotten that, and the same is gonna go for you. So, okay, now when I click on locations, okay, we printed out the dictionary here. Let's take a look at it. It's a little bit of gibberish, but you can see a CK record ID as the key, which is right here. And then it gives me the record name, all that stuff. And then here's the colon, right, for the key and the value pair. And you can see the value is, an array of DDG profiles. And then here's my profile with, first name, last name, etc. Okay, so the dictionary is working, but let's go back to the simulator and actually go to Chipotle. Now let's check out. Cool. Now let's go back. And then you see our empty dictionary printed because we are no longer checked in. So our dictionary is being built accordingly, albeit we've only tested it with one profile. In the next video, we're going to work on getting the UI up to date, and we're going to test that with some mock profiles that we'll create so we can see this, in more realistic action. All right, on to the next video.